Well, since the internet keep talking about this great lock-in, I might as well leverage it. As a 30-year-old with 2.5 kids, a mortgage, and student loans from a master's degree that I'm not even using, being unemployed feels tragic. But enough about my woes and on how I'm going to pull myself out of this. I'm reading a 1973 book on Buddhist economics like it's going to save me. I suck at intros, so let's just cut to the video, child. I'm not a professional
Every time I think about starting this video, I feel more and more anxiety about it. I feel nervous about sharing one of my greatest embarrassments on camera and then uploading it on YouTube. And I feel like that's fair. I feel like it's fair. I also feel like something has to change. And if one of the natural laws of the universe is that things are always changing regardless if you want it or not, then you might as well try to just ride the motion. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm being honest. I'm having audacity. Audacity, as Dochi said, is going to be my word of the year. Audacity. I have been feeling a fire up under my ass because, baby, how are we going to get to the bag? Let's jump to the 1973 book on Buddhist economics, which reads,
when people ask for education, they normally mean something more than mere training, something more than mere knowledge of fact, and something more than mere diversion. Maybe they cannot themselves formulate precisely what they are looking for, but I think what they are really looking for is ideas that would make the world and their own lives intelligible to them. When a thing is intelligible to you, you have a sense of participation. When things are unintelligible to you have a sense of estrangement.
And that is from E.F. Schumacher's book, Small is Beautiful. And I've been wondering exactly how I might be able to put whatever theory he's talking about into real action in building the personal curriculum, because the internet has been talking about the great lock-in. I'm not really an internet trend girly because internet trends don't really work for me, but I do love academic structure. I did just graduate 230 days ago. So it's not like I'm not used to this system. And I think I need to rewind a bit, because the reason why I got my master's in public administration in the first place had everything to do with the fact that I've always known what it was that I wanted to do with my life. I just didn't know how to execute. I don't want to turn this video into a therapy session where I'm giving you backstory of my backstory. I ran to getting my education, getting my master's of public administration from one of the most prestigious programs, because for a very long time I was homeless. I literally remember sleeping on streets some nights while in high school. My father was incarcerated for umpteen years, and so my mom had to do the best that she could do. And I found myself enjoying giving back in the same space that I lived in, which was technically a shelter for the unhoused, a homeless shelter. But I had a lot of fun organizing events that happened with the kids. I enjoyed being able to make people's plates, and I had a lot of fun making what was not a house feel like a home for myself and the many other people that were there.
Eventually, I worked for 211, where I talk to people about their benefits. So I went from being a beneficiary to helping beneficiaries with their SNAP benefits, their Medicaid, Medicare, and so on, to eventually finding that didn't itch the scratch that I had, that wasn't good enough, because I realized that policy change was needed.
Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that I lived it, I worked it, I went to school for it. And when I couldn't get a job, even though I thought that I was the perfect applicant, now that I can't get a job, even though I feel like I'm the perfect applicant because I bring in perspective from various avenues, I've decided that I'm going to do exactly what it has been that I've always wanted to do, and technically why I went to school, which is to not work for a community center, but own my own community center, be the person that runs an organization, because when you live in a homeless shelter and you get talked to a particular way, and maybe I'm not the person for policy change, maybe a little bit of advocacy, but definitely not a representative or working for a government institution because I have just been disgusted and I refuse to have to code switch for these people. Nevertheless, back to the video, back to Jamia talking about how she's just gonna use this personal curriculum to become the actual person that she wants to become. And this journey is more or less her documenting that in real time with real mess ups. Cause child, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that. Let me go back to it in this video because I.
Here's to trying to create that exact thing myself. Well, since the internet has been talking about this great lock in, I guess that one of the many structures that people have been using to actually accomplish what it is that they're setting out to do, getting back into their interests, managing their hobbies, and so on, is with a personal curriculum. And what is a personal curriculum?
A personal curriculum is a self designed framework that aids in reclaiming the structured learning experienced in school. It's kind of like a roadmap where you have a destination, a plan to get there, and then resources and tools that'll help you get there. In Small is Beautiful, E.F. Schumacher says that education's purpose isn't to produce workers for the economy, it is to transmit values and teach people what to do with their lives. And that's exactly why a personal curriculum is for everybody. Where traditional education teaches you to follow someone else's syllabus, a personal curriculum dares you to build your own. So it's for the atypical person, the B-typical person, the procrastinator, solopreneur, multi-passionate, neurodivergent, homegirl, homeboy, and homie that is wanting to escape the AI brain rot slop that causes them to doom scroll.
But I think what's most important is when you're reaching for your phone, ask yourself, what am I reaching for in the first place? Is it connection, information, or am I bored? Can I be doing something different? That simple question, I feel like, will shift you out of doom scrolling or just mindlessly scrolling to deciding to pick up this instead.
In a personal curriculum, you get to ask yourself, what do I need to learn to become the person I want to be? And that might look like scrolling through your Pinterest boards or your past like posts, looking at what YouTube videos you've added to your queue. What was the burning question or the forgotten hobby, the unfinished book, or the desired skill that's been gnawing at you? What you want to do is make a list and find the thread. What is the common denominator of all of that? And then go from there. You also could ask yourself, what have you been interested in but avoiding? And then you would ask yourself what system makes sense to you most. My personal curriculum lives in a traditional notebook as well as Notion, but yours might live in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. Regardless, you want to make sure that you have a place that holds your personal curriculum, or at least your objectives, the time frames that you've given yourself, and the tasks that it is that you want to meet. And now that we've gone over what a personal curriculum is, I want to talk about the system that I'm using to maximize my success, which brings me to today's sponsor. And before you skip, I just want to say that today's sponsor is me and the product is free. It's actually the personal curriculum template that I made both on Notion and as a workbook. It's something that I'm actually using and it's a part of my coursework. Because I'm studying communal economics and I want to bring Schumacher's theory into practice, I challenged myself to create a product that I made pay as you can. I believe that education shouldn't come with barriers and shouldn't cost as much as it gives. And for that reason, I want everyone to have access to these templates, regardless if you can pay or not. With that said, if you're interested, the links for both the Notion template and the workbook are down in the description box below.
So now that we've gone over what a personal curriculum is, I want to go over to my template on Notion and show you what my personal curriculum looks like, as well as explain how you might design your syllabus
in the different coursework. So let's hop over to the desk view. Regardless if you are not using this template, if you are new to Notion, or if you're a pro, I think that this tour will serve you well. It does come with a user guide to reiterate everything that I said in the video, as well as give you inspiration on how you might create your own personal curriculum. So to start with the tour, I needed to create a space where both the artist and the analytical sides of myself could coexist. By all means, you don't need to go all in, but I did so that I could continuously come back to this space and actually complete my coursework. Because I read the 12-week year, I was really inspired to just use 12 weeks as my time frame. And then I needed a weekly view of what's coming up, as well as a calendar view of all of my due dates within the month. I decorated the space with James Baldwin and Buddha because I feel like my head is riddled with quotes and I want to pay homage to them. Speaking of paying homage, to me, it's a cute way of citing my sources, but these were all the people that inspired me to create a personal curriculum in the first place. There's also an about me section and a letter from me if you're inclined to read them, as well as the user guide, which is helpful for people, like I said, that might be new to the system. I'll probably go over it in another video, but one of my other courses is on hosting, and what better way to host people than virtually on a Cafescape playlist. So that's also there for you to enjoy. I was able to come up with all of these very quirky coursework because of how intentional I was about my syllabus. I wanted to make sure that I was very clear about my objective, and then I narrowed my scope on what it was that I was learning. I thought about the daily, weekly, or monthly tasks that I wanted to complete, and I even made it a part of my homework to look up my resources. And once I was done with all of that, all of my milestones came very naturally to me. Mainly, I asked myself, what is a marker of success and that I actually learned? So the example that I'll give is with my communal economics course, which is the star of the show today, obviously. As much as I talk about getting specific in your syllabus, mine is a bit loose in places where I know I need to give myself grace. I know that I want to define Slumflower's economic framework in the midst of capitalism, since we can't really quit it cold turkey. But right now, since I don't have a brick and mortar space, I want to know how I can read these theories and then translate it into a practice on my own human scale. For you, it might be looking like running a 5K or losing 10 pounds, but the objective area is where your goals live. My focus area is the art of communion in the digital renaissance in the midst of capitalism and at my human scale. What can I do right now? And truthfully, this is how I'm making sure I actually complete the task and I don't get burnt out. What's realistic for me right now is reading 20 pages daily, recording my reflections weekly, and then posting those reflections about what I read within that month. Resources are actually something I'll get into a little bit later, but when it comes to milestones, the main one is to remain curious. As of right now, though, I knew that I just needed to read the book that I bought a year ago, as well as a book by Audre Lorde. And this course is a bit chicken and eggy because I started off with knowing I wanted to practice communal economics before I fully understood it. And so my midterm actually came first, and this technically is my midterm, this video and the product. So yeah. And I just want to show you what that looks like from a journal perspective, because I actually designed my courses in my journal first, and then I brought it over to Notion. In my journal, I explained what it was, why it was, and then the framework, just as a little key to myself. And then I wrote down what semester or quarter we are in the year. This is going to be my first course that I gave an example of, but I've wrote down my objectives, my focus area, my key tasks, my resources, my milestones, and then how I intend on making my reflection. My resources live in a section all on its own. As of right now, I'm reading Smile is Beautiful, Audre Lorde's The Master's Tools, and I'm really inspired by the Black Panther Party and want to learn more about their free breakfast program that they had. So when it comes to coursework, that's actually what shows up on the timeline and the calendar view I showed you earlier. But when it shows here inside of the course, it is actually up to you on how you want to set it up. The way that I decided was that I wanted for there to be a way for me to view priority and a way for me to view what was completed and not yet completed. Creating the Notion template and workbook was categorized as an experiment, and this YouTube video, which I've completed, is a project. The coursework that I created was less about what I saw in college and more about what it was I wanted to do and how I wanted to express that I learned something. I identified 6 different courseworks that would work for me, but you can choose what it is that you need. For example, the template itself is considered an experiment, and if you choose to download this template, you would get pre-generated prompts to help you move through each coursework that you choose to do. And that can be said for all of the other types of coursework, but I feel like it's just really important to note that learning without application is just information. And so giving yourself these courseworks is a tool to prove that you actually learned the information. And while the user guide goes into great detail on the different coursework options that you have, I want to give you examples on how I might use each of these courseworks. For example, when it comes to essays, I think about wanting to respond to Schumacher's claims and maybe even tie in or synthesize my readings that I also have for myself. And that might look like, rather than just leaving it in a never read again Google Doc, I plan on uploading that on my Substack, for example. When it comes to using a project, I think about this kind of being a project, building a whole Notion system for you all. And then the experiment would be testing what would happen if I posted a template that I'm already using for free. Would this create trust in the community? Would I be able to gather data to prove that communal economics on this scale even works, especially before I decide to get a bodega? And then it comes with all of these assumptions that traditional education already has these barriers to entry. So what would happen if I just decided to promote what I was creating, especially if I have a proven track record of my own success with it. But the gist of an experiment is to test the hypothesis that you have and then see what happens with that data. The next type of coursework is reflection, and I'm choosing to do this weekly alongside of my readings. Discussion questions are also a really great way to reflect on what it was that you were reading or a lecture that you might have watched. Reflections are typically general because it could be about you running a 5K, for example, whereas discussion questions really require you to interrogate how you process what you read or watched in your resource. And then creating your own form of coursework when none of these fits would be something that you're able to do simply by, if you're using this template, instead of automatically generating, for example, the essay, which comes with pre-generated questions. Now that we've talked about what a personal curriculum is, who needs it, why you need it, and how to build one, I want to leave you off with the prerequisite course so that you can do it yourself. And you can navigate there in 2 different ways, either in the user guide all the way down at the bottom, which leads you to the prerequisite course, or as soon as you open it, the prerequisite course right here allows you to help navigate you in creating the courses like I explained. The syllabus that I use is actually the GPS method talked about in this video by Ali Abdul, but I created a coursework assignment that will allow you to maximize what it is that he's talking about so that your syllabus and the courses are created with intention. If we're thinking about goals as the destination and then your plan as being the bridge of your system that you're using or the steps that you're taking to get to your goal, then we want to be very specific about what your goal is. For me, my goal isn't to just study communal economic frameworks. It is that by March 31st, I want to move communal economics from theory and into a tangible practice by arriving to a working definition through live application and document what data it was that I either gathered by you all downloading this or you all commenting on this video. I also want to think about anti-goals. What are things I don't want to happen along my process? And then when it comes to your plan, it's a matter of choosing courses that you can actually stick to. You can do this by looking at things that you've been interested in when it comes to what you follow on social media, but making sure that it's something that you can do out in the analog world rather than the digital one. And then when it comes to your systems, understanding that motivation is a fleeting lover and it's not something to beat yourself up about. It's a matter of creating a system that works for you. For me, creating a beautifully aesthetically pleasing Notion template was a lot of heavy lifting, front-loaded work, but it was because I wanted to create a space that I would want to come back to. Yes, I love journaling, and if you are a journal person, then making sure that you even decorate your journal in a way that makes you feel good is just as important in putting into your system as the system itself. Of course, there's a lot more when it comes to building your courses and your syllabus, but making sure that you are accountable to yourself is really important. Yes, it is nice to have an accountability buddy, but you need to hold yourself accountable too. And that's why I added this cute little signature down here for you to be able to remind yourself that you actually committed to doing this. And then when you are done, you can click that you've completed your first final. The last thing to note is that you don't have to continuously create your prerequisite coursework in the prerequisite course. If you feel like deleting it, you can, but there is helpful tools in there. If you want to in your course, then you can create a new tab and the prerequisite course will show up for every course it is that you continue to create. With that said, let's move over to Jamia at her desk. I feel like this video is entirely too long, but I thank you if you have stayed for the entire show. If you like content like this, videos with real people, not gurus trying to sell you things, but a real life journey of somebody building something real, then I hope you subscribe and stay tuned for my journey as I build my one day organization brick by brick. Until the next video, stay rooted.
I've always known what it was that I wanted to do with my life. I just didn't know how to. I just didn't know how to execute.